The quantum lab hummed with its usual electronic symphony as Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her monitor, her dark eyes reflecting the dancing patterns of data that shouldn't exist. The quantum entanglement readings had been showing increasingly bizarre patterns over the past week, defying every known law of physics. She ran her fingers through her short black hair, a habit that had intensified since these anomalies began appearing. Running simulation sequence 47, she muttered to herself, typing commands into the system. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology's quantum research facility was empty at this hour, just as she preferred it. The soft blue glow of emergency lights cast long shadows across the state-of-the-art equipment. The simulation started, and immediately the readings spiked. Sarah leaned forward, her heart racing. The quantum particles weren't just entangled. They were forming patterns, complex sequences that looked almost like. "They're not random," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the machines. "They're responding to something." A sudden flash of light filled the lab, bright enough to leave afterimages dancing in her vision. Sarah stumbled backward, knocking over her chair. As her vision cleared, she found herself face to face with something impossible. A figure stood before her, tall and elegant, with skin that seemed to shift between deep purple and midnight blue like the northern lights. Its eyes were entirely silver, without pupils or iris, yet somehow conveyed an intensity that made Sarah's breath catch in her throat. The being wore what appeared to be armor, but it moved like liquid metal, constantly shifting and adjusting. "Dr. Sarah Chen," the figure spoke, its voice resonating with harmonics that seemed to bypass her ears and vibrate directly in her mind. "I am Kiravesh, guardian of the third sphere. Your work has drawn attention far beyond your world." Sarah's scientific mind warred with the impossibility before her. You're real," she managed to say, her hand gripping the edge of her desk for support. "As real as the quantum anomalies you've been studying," Kiravesh replied, taking a step forward. The armor rippled with the movement. "Anomalies that were meant to lead you to this moment. You created those patterns?" Sarah asked, her scientific curiosity beginning to override her fear. "Why?" "Because humanity has reached a crucial junction point, and you, Dr. Chen, have unknowingly discovered something that could either save or doom your species." Kiravesh's silver eyes seemed to pierce through her. "Your work on quantum entanglement has brought you dangerously close to discovering the Void Protocol." "The Void Protocol?" Sarah repeated, her mind racing through possibilities. "Is that what's causing the strange patterns in my data?" "It is a fundamental force of reality, one that your species was not meant to discover for another century." Kiravesh moved to the quantum computer, studying its primitive design with what seemed like fascination. "But your breakthrough has accelerated the timeline. There are others watching, Dr. Chen. Others who would use your discovery to devastating effect." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "What others?" "The Nexus Dominion." Kiravesh's voice carried a weight of ancient conflict. "They are a coalition of species who believe in technological supremacy at any cost. They've been watching Earth's technological progress with great interest, and your quantum research has convinced them that humanity is ready to be harvested." The word harvested hung in the air like a death sentence. Sarah's mind flashed to her team, her family, her world. "Why are you telling me this? Why not just destroy my research?" Kiravesh's expression shifted, the liquid metal armor pulsing with what might have been approval. "Because humanity has shown remarkable potential. Your species possesses something rare in the galaxy, adaptability combined with empathy. Your particular breakthrough, if properly guided, could help establish a defense system that would protect not just Earth, but countless other emerging worlds." A distant alarm began to sound, and Kiravesh's posture suddenly tensed. "They're here sooner than expected. Dr. Chen, you must make a choice now. You can stay and try to explain to your authorities what's about to happen, or you can come with me and learn how to protect your world." The alarm grew louder, and Sarah could hear voices and footsteps approaching the lab. Her mind raced through the implications. Everything she knew about reality had just been shattered, replaced by something far more vast and dangerous. But within that danger lay an opportunity, a chance to protect her world and advance human understanding beyond anything she had imagined. "What about my research team? My family?" she asked, already knowing she couldn't leave them unprotected. "They will be watched over," Kiravesh assured her. "The Guardians have already deployed a protection detail for all those connected to you. But we must leave now." The footsteps were getting closer. Sarah looked at her computer, decades of research glowing on the screen. With quick, decisive movements, she initiated her emergency data deletion protocol, leaving only enough breadcrumbs for her team to continue their work safely without drawing unwanted attention. "I'll come with you," she said, straightening her back and meeting Kiravesh's silver gaze. "But I want to understand everything. No more secrets." "Agreed," Kiravesh said, extending a hand. The armor around it shifted, revealing skin that seemed to contain swirling galaxies. "Though I warn you, the truth of our universe is far stranger than even your quantum theories suggest." As Sarah reached for the Guardian's hand, the lab door burst open. Men in dark suits rushed in, weapons drawn, but they were too late. The last thing Sarah saw was their shocked expressions as she and Kiravesh dissolved into a cascade of quantum particles, leaving behind a world that would never be the same. In that moment of transition, as her consciousness stretched across space in ways she had only theorized about, Sarah realized that humanity's greatest adventure wasn't just beginning. It had been carefully orchestrated for decades. The question was, by whom, and for what ultimate purpose? The quantum patterns she had discovered weren't just data. They were a language, a message, and perhaps most importantly, a warning. As her atoms reassembled light years from Earth, Sarah knew that her real work, and humanity's true test, was just beginning. Sarah materialized in what appeared to be a vast chamber, its walls shifting with the same liquid metal properties as Kiravesh's armor. Her scientific mind immediately began cataloging details. The air was breathable, but slightly more oxygen-rich than Earth's, the gravity approximately 0.9 of Earth's standard, and the ambient temperature a comfortable 22 degrees Celsius. "Welcome to the Nexus Hub," Kiravesh said, the Guardian's form seeming more at home in these surroundings. "This is one of the few neutral spaces in the galaxy where multiple species can safely convene." Before Sarah could respond, the chamber came alive with holograms, showing what appeared to be a real-time map of the Milky Way. Thousands of points of light indicated inhabited systems, connected by lines of varying colors and intensities. "Your quantum experiments," Kiravesh continued, gesturing to a particular section of the map, "didn't just detect patterns. You unknowingly created a resonance that rippled through these quantum corridors, the same networks we use for instantaneous communication and transport across the galaxy." Sarah approached the hologram, her eyes wide with understanding. "The entanglement patterns, they weren't random at all. They were your version of internet traffic." A sound like crystalline wind chimes filled the air. Kiravesh was laughing. An apt comparison. "But what you detected was far more crucial. You found a way to manipulate these corridors without the technology we thought was necessary. Your human intuition led you to discover something that took other species millennia to develop." The chamber doors slid open, revealing a diverse group of beings entering the room. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Each was unique in appearance. One seemed to be made entirely of crystalline structures. Another was a swirling mass of gas contained within an environmental suit, and yet another appeared almost human, save for the constellation-like patterns moving across their skin. "The Galactic Council," Kiravesh explained quietly. "Representatives from the major spacefaring civilizations. They're here because of you, Dr. Chen." The crystalline being stepped forward, its voice translating directly into Sarah's mind. "We have been monitoring Earth for centuries, watching your species develop. Your quantum breakthrough was unexpected and concerning." "Concerning?" Sarah questioned, standing straighter. "Because we're advancing faster than you anticipated." The gaseous entity shifted colors as it spoke, because your discovery coincides with an ancient prophecy, one that speaks of a species who would either unite the quantum corridors or tear them apart. Sarah looked at each council member in turn, her scientific skepticism rising. I don't believe in prophecies. I believe in data, in observable phenomena. Then observe this, the human-like being said, waving a hand. The holographic display changed, showing a simulation of quantum corridors collapsing, taking entire solar systems with them. This is what happened in the Andromeda Galaxy 50,000 years ago. A civilization discovered what you have, but they weren't ready. The Nexus Dominion manipulated them into weaponizing it. Billions died. And now the Dominion has noticed Earth, Kiravesh added grimly. They believe humanity's adaptability, combined with your discovery, could give them the advantage they need to control all quantum corridors. Sarah's mind raced with implications. But my research was theoretical. We're years away from practical applications. No, Kiravesh corrected. You're minutes away. The equation sequence you were about to run when I arrived, it would have proven that quantum corridors can be manipulated through purely mathematical means, no technology required. That's what makes it so dangerous and so valuable. The council members began speaking among themselves in various forms of communication, some verbal, others through light patterns or electromagnetic pulses. Sarah could sense their anxiety, their uncertainty about how to proceed. So what happens now? She asked, turning to Kiravesh. You can't just expect me to abandon my research, to leave Earth defenseless against this dominion. The crystalline being interrupted. That is precisely why we brought you here. We need you to continue your research, but under our guidance. Earth will be protected, but we must ensure your discovery doesn't fall into the wrong hands. And who decides what the wrong hands are? Sarah challenged, her voice firm. How do I know you're not just another faction trying to control this power? The chamber fell silent. The council members exchanged looks that Sarah couldn't quite interpret. Finally, Kiravesh spoke. Show her the archive, the guardian said to the council. Show her everything. The human-like being stepped forward. Dr. Chen, what you're about to see has been witnessed by fewer than 1,000 beings in the history of our galaxy. It is the true record of how quantum corridors were discovered and why they must be protected. The chamber darkened, and new holograms appeared. But these weren't just visual representations. Sarah felt knowledge flowing directly into her mind, vast and ancient. She saw the birth of quantum corridors, natural phenomena that connected distant points in space-time. She witnessed how ancient civilizations discovered them, how some tried to control them, and how others sought to protect them. The corridors aren't just pathways, she whispered, understanding flooding her consciousness. They're the nervous system of the galaxy itself. My God, my equations weren't creating connections. They were communicating with something that was already there. Now you begin to understand, Kiravesh said softly. The Dominion believes these corridors can be controlled, weaponized. But you've already seen the truth. They're alive, in their own way. They can't be controlled, only collaborated with. Sarah stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by the history of the galaxy, her mind processing implications that would reshape humanity's understanding of the universe. She thought of her small lab back on Earth, of how she had stumbled upon something so vast and vital. I'll help you, she finally said, looking at each council member in turn. But not just to protect Earth. We need to understand these corridors properly. And, she paused, a plan forming in her mind. I think I know why my equations worked differently. Human consciousness, our way of processing reality. It might be the key to communicating with the corridors in a way you haven't tried before. The council members stirred, and Sarah could sense both hope and apprehension in their reactions. She had just volunteered humanity for a role in galactic politics that Earth didn't even know existed yet. But as she caught Kiravesh's approving gaze, she knew this was just the beginning of a much larger journey. one that would either elevate humanity to new heights or lead them to catastrophic failure. The question was, could she bridge the gap between human understanding and cosmic truth before the Dominion made their move? Days aboard the Guardian vessel melted together as Sarah immersed herself in understanding alien quantum technology. The ship itself was a marvel of engineering, powered by the same quantum corridors she had unknowingly detected back on Earth. But it was the ship's interactive research chamber that truly captured her attention. "Your adaptation rate is remarkable," Kiravesh observed, watching as Sarah manipulated quantum streams with a combination of mental commands and mathematical formulas. The three-dimensional display around them showed complex patterns of energy flowing like rivers through space. "It's because we're approaching it differently," Sarah explained, adjusting a quantum sequence with a thought. "Your civilizations developed technology to interact with the corridors. Humans, we're somehow naturally attuned to them. We just never knew what we were sensing." The chamber's displays shifted, showing a comparative analysis of different species' quantum interaction patterns. Human patterns stood out, showing unusual complexity and resonance. "That's what the Dominion fears," came a new voice. The human-like council member, who had introduced himself as Skander, entered the chamber. "They've discovered that human consciousness naturally synchronizes with quantum fluctuations. It's why Earth's technological development has been so rapid." Sarah turned from her work, interest peaked. "You mean we've been unconsciously drawing information from the quantum corridors?" "More than that," Kiravesh interjected. "Your dreams, your intuitive leaps in science and art, they're all influenced by quantum resonance. Humanity has been having a conversation with the galaxy itself, even if you didn't know it." Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared through the ship. The displays flickered, showing a massive disturbance in nearby quantum corridors. "Dominion vessels," Xander announced grimly. "They'd found us sooner than expected." The ship shuddered as it executed emergency maneuvers. Sarah steadied herself against a console, her mind racing. "Wait," she said suddenly. "Let me try something." Without waiting for permission, she interfaced with the ship's quantum systems. The mathematical patterns she had been studying suddenly aligned in her mind with a clarity that took her breath away. "Dr. Chen, what are you doing?" Kiravesh's voice held a note of concern. "The corridors aren't just pathways," Sarah said, her consciousness expanding into the quantum network. "They're synapses in a neural network, and if human consciousness naturally resonates with them." She pushed her awareness outward, feeling the quantum corridors respond to her presence. The pursuing Dominion ships appeared in her mind as dark disturbances in the natural flow of quantum energy. "Impossible," Sander whispered, watching the displays as quantum corridors began shifting, creating new patterns that the Dominion ships couldn't navigate. Sarah opened her eyes, sweat beading on her forehead. "Not impossible. Natural. The corridors aren't tools to be used. They're a living network that responds to consciousness. The Dominion's been trying to force their way through. We need to communicate." The ship's sensors showed the Dominion vessels falling behind, unable to match the new quantum configurations. But Sarah's triumph was short-lived as a massive energy surge registered on the displays. "They're attempting to force the corridors open," Kiravesh announced, anxiety evident in their voice. "If they succeed, they could tear apart the entire network in this sector." Sarah's mind raced through possibilities. Her recent understanding of the quantum network combined with her human intuition, creating connections that even the Guardians hadn't considered. "The prophecy," she said suddenly, turning to Xander. "You said it spoke of uniting or tearing apart the quantum corridors. What if it's not about control at all? What if it's about understanding?" She moved to the central console, her fingers flying over the alien interface as naturally as if she'd been using it all her life. "Human consciousness resonates with the corridors because we don't try to control them. We dream, we imagine, we create. We're natural communicators." The displays around them transformed as Sarah implemented her theory. Instead of trying to block the Dominion ships, she created a quantum resonance pattern based on human brainwave patterns during deep meditation. "What are you doing?" Xander asked, watching in fascination as the quantum corridors began pulsing with new energy. Showing them what they've been missing, Sarah replied, her concentration intense. The corridors aren't weapons or tools. They're connections. And connections work both ways. The Dominion ships suddenly stopped their aggressive approach. Their energy signatures fluctuated as the new quantum patterns washed over them. They're receiving transmissions directly from the corridor network, Karavesh reported, amazement evident in their voice. The quantum consciousness is communicating with their ship systems. Sarah maintained her focus, guiding the interaction. Through the quantum network, she could sense the confusion, and then understanding spreading through the Dominion fleet. Their attempts to force the corridors open ceased as they began to comprehend the true nature of what they'd been trying to control. "This changes everything," Xander said quietly. The Dominion's entire philosophy was based on technological supremacy over the quantum network. But if it's truly a living system that requires cooperation rather than control, then humanity's role isn't to control or protect the corridors, Sarah finished, finally stepping back from the console. It's to help everyone understand them. We're not weapons or tools in your galactic conflict. We're translators. The chamber fell silent as the implications settled over them. The displays showed the Dominion ships beginning to retreat, their energy signatures markedly different from before. "The Council will need to be informed," Karavesh said finally. "This discovery goes beyond just defending Earth or maintaining the balance of power. It's about fundamentally changing how all species interact with the quantum network." Sarah nodded, her mind already racing with new possibilities. "And we need to prepare Earth for what's coming. Because once humanity fully awakens to our connection with the quantum corridors, the galaxy will never be the same," Xander finished. As the Guardian ship stabilized its course, Sarah looked out at the vast expanse of space, now seeing it with new eyes. The quantum corridors weren't just visible to her now. They were a symphony of consciousness, connecting all living things in ways she was only beginning to understand. The real work was just beginning, and humanity's role in the cosmic dance was far greater than anyone had imagined. The Galactic Council's central chamber buzzed with unprecedented activity. Representatives from over 1,000 civilizations had gathered, their forms ranging from pure energy to crystalline structures, all focused on the human woman standing at the center of the forum. Sarah stood before them, no longer intimidated by their alien presence. 3 months of working with quantum corridors had changed her fundamentally. She could now perceive the subtle quantum interactions that connected all conscious beings. "What Dr. Chen proposes is radical," Xander addressed the assembly, his constellation-like patterns shifting with intensity. "But we've all seen the data. Human consciousness doesn't just interact with quantum corridors, it harmonizes with them in ways our technology never could. And that's exactly why this is dangerous," a Dominion representative countered, their dark energy form pulsing with concern. "If humans can naturally manipulate quantum corridors, they become a destabilizing force in the galaxy." Sarah stepped forward, her voice clear and confident. "You're still thinking in terms of manipulation and control. Let me demonstrate something." She closed her eyes, reaching out to the quantum network that permeated the chamber. The assembled beings gasped as the quantum corridors became visible to all, manifesting as streams of luminescent energy flowing through the room. "This is how humans perceive quantum corridors naturally," she explained, guiding the energy streams into a complex dance. "We don't see them as tools or weapons. We experience them as connections, living links between consciousness and reality. A crystalline being shifted forward, but your species is primitive by galactic standards. You haven't even achieved unified planetary governance." "Perhaps that's exactly why we can do this," Sarah countered. "Our diversity, our conflicts, our constant struggle to understand each other. It's all created a unique form of consciousness. We don't seek uniformity. We thrive in complexity." She gestured, and the quantum streams formed a replica of Earth's internet network. "Look at how we built our global communication system. It's chaotic, redundant, resilient, just like the quantum corridors themselves. Kiravesh, who had been silently observing, stepped forward. Dr. Chen's work has proven that the ancient prophecy wasn't about controlling the corridors, it was about understanding them. Humanity doesn't need to be contained or controlled. They need to be integrated. The chamber erupted in discussion, countless species debating in their native forms of communication. Sarah could feel their quantum signatures fluctuating with emotion and thought. Integration is precisely what we fear, the Dominion representative declared. If humans can naturally access quantum corridors, what's to prevent them from disrupting the entire galactic communication network? Sarah smiled. Watch this. She reached out again, but this time she didn't manipulate the quantum strings. Instead, she began translating them. The chamber filled with images, emotions, and concepts from across the galaxy. Species that had never been able to directly communicate suddenly found themselves understanding each other on a fundamental level. This is what humans can offer, Sarah explained, maintaining the translation field. We're not weapons or tools. We're bridges. Our consciousness naturally translates quantum information into forms other species can understand. A gaseous entity swirled in what Sarah had learned was their expression of revelation. The prophecy spoke of unification. We assumed it meant control, but it meant communication. Exactly, Sarah confirmed. The quantum corridors aren't just pathways through space. They're the galaxy's nervous system, and humans, we're natural synapses in that system. The implications rippled through the assembly. Species that had been locked in millennia-old conflicts suddenly found themselves experiencing each other's perspectives through the human-translated quantum field. But this power, the Dominion representative began, their energy signature showing signs of understanding. It could still be weaponized. Only if you keep thinking in terms of weapons, Sarah countered. Let me show you something else. She expanded her consciousness further, tapping into the quantum corridors in a way she'd only recently discovered. The chamber transformed. The assembled beings found themselves experiencing the human phenomenon of dreaming, the wild, creative connections that human minds made naturally. This is how we process reality, Sarah explained as the representatives experienced human consciousness firsthand. We don't just receive information. We transform it, connect it in new ways, create new possibilities. That's why we resonate with quantum corridors. We're natural quantum computers, but instead of calculating probabilities, we imagine new ones. Xander stepped forward, his skin rippling with excitement. The Council must understand. Humanity isn't a threat to galactic stability. They're the key to its evolution. Their natural ability to translate quantum information could end millennia of misunderstandings between species. The chamber hummed with discussion as the implications became clear. Sarah maintained the translation field, allowing every species present to share in the revelation. There will need to be protocols, the crystalline being conceded, guidelines for human integration into galactic society. Of course, Sarah agreed, but they need to be protocols of cooperation, not control. Humanity's gift isn't our ability to manipulate quantum corridors, it's our ability to help others understand them, and through them, understand each other. As the Council began to draft new protocols, Sarah shared a knowing look with Kiravesh. They both knew this was just the beginning. Humanity was about to take its first steps into a larger universe, not as conquerors or subjects, but as translators and bridges between worlds. The quantum corridors pulsed with new potential, and somewhere on Earth, another human was about to look up at the stars and dream of possibilities that would reshape the galaxy once again. The Earth hung like a blue jewel in the viewport of the Guardian vessel as Sarah prepared for humanity's first official contact with galactic civilization. After months of preparation and negotiation with the Council, the moment had finally arrived. "Are you ready?" Kiravesh asked, their armor rippling with anticipation. "Once we begin the quantum broadcast, there's no turning back." Sarah took a deep breath, watching her homeworld rotate slowly below. Earth needs to know. not just about the quantum corridors or alien life, but about their own potential. The ship's quantum communication array hummed to life, powered by the unique resonance of Sarah's consciousness. Around them, representatives from the Council and even former Dominion worlds gathered to witness the historic moment. Broadcasting on all quantum frequencies, Xander announced, his constellation patterns shifting rapidly. Earth's quantum signature is responding. Sarah closed her eyes and reached out through the quantum network. She could feel the collective consciousness of humanity below, billions of minds unknowingly connected to the galactic quantum web. With careful precision, she began to amplify those natural connections. Across Earth, people stopped what they were doing as their quantum awareness suddenly awakened. Scientists at CERN noticed unprecedented particle behaviors. Astronomers watched as their instruments detected new patterns in space, and ordinary people everywhere began experiencing unusual dreams and intuitions. "They're responding faster than we anticipated," one of the council members observed. "Their natural quantum resonance is strengthening exponentially." Sarah monitored the quantum frequencies carefully. "Because they're finally conscious of what they've always been able to do. We're not giving humanity new abilities. We're showing them what they've had all along." Suddenly, alarms blared through the ship. Multiple quantum corridors were destabilizing as humanity's collective consciousness surged through the network. "This is too much, too fast," the Dominion representative warned. Their uncontrolled awakening could tear the network apart. But Sarah remained calm. "No, watch." As the quantum disruption spread, something unexpected happened. Instead of chaos, new patterns began to emerge. Human consciousness, now aware of its connection to the quantum network, started naturally organizing itself. "Impossible," Xander whispered. "They're creating new quantum corridors spontaneously." "Not creating," Sarah corrected, smiling. "They're dreaming them into existence. This is what humanity does. We imagine possibilities, and through the quantum network, those possibilities become real." The displays showed quantum corridors shifting and realigning across the galaxy. But unlike the rigid, technologically maintained corridors of other civilizations, these new pathways were fluid, adaptive, alive with human creativity. This is what the prophecy truly meant, Kiravesh realized. Not that humanity would control the corridors, but that they would help them evolve. Sarah nodded, maintaining her connection to the quantum network. The corridors aren't just pathways through space. They're pathways through possibility. And humans are natural explorers of possibility. Across Earth, governments scrambled to respond to the unprecedented global phenomenon. But something remarkable was happening. People weren't panicking. Instead, there was a growing sense of connection, of understanding. "It's time," Sarah said, opening her eyes. "Kiravesh, begin the descent." The Guardian vessel broke orbit, becoming visible to Earth's populations as it descended through the atmosphere. But it wasn't alone. Across the sky, ships from various council races appeared, their quantum signatures harmonizing with the new human-influenced corridors. As they descended towards the United Nations headquarters in New York, Sarah prepared the message she would deliver to humanity. But it wasn't just her message anymore. Through the quantum network, every human on Earth could feel the truth of their place in the galaxy. "We're not just joining galactic civilization," she announced, her words carried through both traditional and quantum channels. "We're helping it transform. The quantum corridors aren't tools to be used or controlled. They're living connections between all conscious beings. And humanity. We're the dreamers who help those connections grow." The ship landed as dawn broke over New York. Sarah stood with Kiravesh and Xander, ready to step out onto Earth's soil as representatives of not just humanity, but of a new understanding of galactic civilization. "The age of isolation is over," she declared to the gathered world leaders and the billions watching globally. "But this isn't an ending. It's a beginning. Humanity has always looked to the stars and dreamed. Now we know why. We're not just observers of the cosmic dance, we're its choreographers." As she spoke, The quantum corridors visible in the sky pulsed with new energy, responding to humanity's collective awakening. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath as a new era began. "We are not alone," Sarah concluded, feeling the quantum resonance of billions of humans and countless alien species harmonizing together. "We never were. We just needed to learn how to listen, not just to the stars, but to the quantum song that connects us all." The sun rose fully over New York, its light catching the alien ships hovering above. But they no longer seemed alien. Through the quantum network, humanity could feel the consciousness of their occupants, their hopes, their fears, their dreams. Earth had taken its first step into a larger universe. And as Sarah stood at the threshold between two worlds, she knew that this was just the beginning. The real adventure, humanity's role as dreamweavers of the quantum cosmos, was about to begin. In the quantum corridors above, new possibilities sparkled like stars, waiting to be explored by a species that had finally awakened to its true nature as guardians not of territory or technology, but of imagination itself. The Guardians' protocol was complete, but the story of humanity among the stars was just beginning.